Hey everybody, Mike with Games Play Badly, and today on Session 0, I have Team Rex Games talking about their new game, Vault. Now, Erik and Richard come on and explain the game in fabulous detail. Imagine Cyberpunk meets high fantasy. So you have cybernetics and hacking and magic and all sorts of different things in this game, as well as some unique mechanics, including a bunch of event cards, spell cards, all sorts of different tokens at the table, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. On top of that, it's a quasi-miniature game at this point, so if you're looking for a strategy game and some high fantasy and cyberpunk, this might be the game for you. And to top all that off, they have a Kickstarter launching in February. And as always, I have my Gem Firefly shirt on. I have lots of these shirts. I'll have a lot more, and because I keep ordering them. But if you want a shirt like this, go up to gemfirefly.com, get what you like, and when you get ready to check out, make sure to put in our promo code BADLY15, BADLY15 at checkout for 15% off your order. Also, on top of t-shirts, if you like some really cool TTRPG stuff, such as big polyhedral dice, or I have a little magnet here as well, all sorts of different things. Make sure to go ahead and check out Jess over at Works of Whimsy Studio. She's fantastic, and she is sending me something very special that will be here, and I will show it to you when I get it. As always, thanks for subscribing. If you haven't subscribed yet and you like our content, it's absolutely free. All you have to do is click the subscribe button down here. I don't know why I did it that way. Hit the thumbs up button and leave comments. We also have a website, gamesplaybadly.com, where you can see all of our content in one spot. It might be a little bit easier to navigate, plus all of our socials down below if you want to reach out to me at any point. Richard and Erik are right around the corner. That interview starts now. Hey Erik, hey Richard, how are you?
Good.
Hey, doing good.
Thanks for coming on and talking to me today. You have an interesting project which I've had a chance to take a little bit of a look at, but just from the one-liner that you have in the very beginning of your webpage talking about what type of game this is, I was instantly intrigued, I'll say. So it's basically a cyberpunk meets high fantasy type setting, and it's completely your own creation. Why don't you tell me about that?
Yeah. If we're talking about dice and things, it's a 2d6 based system.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll roll 2d6 to hit, you'll roll 2d6 for damage. Everything kind of gets figured out based off of that. Every once in a while, you get to add an extra die to something if you're doing really good.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a lot of resources that we use. We use things like fate tokens that'll kind of let you manipulate how your dice are working, or not die, or make yourself not be on fire anymore. Those kinds of extra effort kind of deals. And then we kind of built everything out from there. Character creation is huge. As far as like setting and stuff goes, Erik, do you want to take some of that?
Yeah. And as Richard may or may not have mentioned, our game is called Vault, if you guys can't see that. And we are Team Rex Games. There's a couple other members that couldn't join us today, but that's all good. But yeah, Vault, set in the future Earth. Crazy stuff has happened. A big war with fey creatures that have come back from a hidden plane of existence. Nuking of the ice caps and raging super volcanoes have caused massive flooding and all kinds of terrible things to humanity. We've all been kind of boarded up into these mega cities across the world, and we've kind of made new ones and come up with some old ones, and kind of reinforced what might be still standing after such a disaster. And then all kind of, that we had an AI war happen. We had the creation of super soldiers, and we find ourselves today where the players get to put themselves in the shoes of mercenaries working on the Vault app, the Uber or DoorDash or whatever you want to call it, of mercenary work. You sign up and make your little account with your team, and then when the jobs come through, you accept them and work for a patron of some kind to yeah, do whatever dirty work they need done for bits, as we've called them. Is our currency of the game. Yeah, so there's everything from AI to crazy magical monstrosities that need fighting to corrupt criminal organizations and all kinds of nasty megacorps that rule these mega cities, and the councils of five, the five most represented or most wealthy corporations in each city. They get to decide all the rules and make stuff happen. So that's a little bit about Vault.
So, when did you start development on this project?
As a team, about 3 years ago.
Mhm.
Individually, I think we started kind of putting some of it together about a decade ago.
Mhm.
And then some of those notes got turned into like an actual game once we had assembled a real team. And yeah, we've been testing almost weekly now, with the exception of maybe the last 2 months, for about the last 3 years.
Mhm. So when you look at
Yeah,
characters that you can play in your world, what are we what are we looking at as far as, I'm not sure if you would refer to them as classes, but occupations, professions, things like that.
Go ahead.
Yeah, we have first off, we have several different species that folks can play as. We've got, humans, dwarves, elves, your typical fantasy folks. We also have changelings who can shift their appearance at will, and EOS, engineered organic soldiers, those super soldiers I was talking about earlier, made to fight in the AI war, and now they're looking for a bigger purpose in their existence. And we also, of course, have Feyborn, fairy-sized creatures. We actually clock them in about 3 foot tall, that can vary dramatically in appearance, from fairies to imps to devils to all kinds of odd, shorter beings, all with wings, who can fly around and enact their magical mysteries. As far as other customizations go to your character, we have 4 different styles that they can kind of pick from. Some of that will play into what classes they can take, but yeah, that they can be magic, they can be kind of tanky bruisers, they can be skilled assassins who are quick and nimble, or they could even be the brains of the operations, a strategist who has a bunch of say over the battlefield and helping their allies and so on and so forth. Richard, do you want to talk about classes?
Yeah. So we got 16 classes, and you pick 2 of them at character creation. As you start leveling up, there's eventually some decision points where you can actually add on a 3rd class for the most part. But you're picking 2 things. So you might be a bodyguard pit fighter, or a mage shaman. And then once you've picked those 2, there's a few more choices inside of those, where like the mage will pick a particular type of school, the shaman might pick a particular totem that they're gaining a lot of their powers and companion help from, those kinds of deals. And I think that's the bulk of how the classes work, without getting into the details of like all 16 of them. But we try to cover all the cool things that you might see in an action movie.
Yeah, that's one of the big parts, is that we are really going for an action movie feel to the game. Really trying to make all of that combat feel pretty slick and pretty active and pretty fun. Really just trying to make it as fun and as engaging as possible.
Right. So now, how from the combat side of things, I mean, we all know D&D's combat, which is pretty crunchy and pretty involved. How would you compare your combat system?
We're pretty crunchy. We're pretty similar in like how you'll be thinking about things in terms of math, as far as dice and those kinds of things go. We did try to make the combat feel a little bit more like a conversation. So instead of like asking what is your armor class when the game master is making an attack roll, they actually ask, would you like to dodge? And the players have a set number of dodges per turns that they can use, so they can decide that attack's more dangerous. I'm going to focus on not getting hit by that. And those mooks over there, we don't have to be quite so concerned about. So that plays a lot into the conversation aspect of it, of like, yes, I would like to dodge, my defense is now 17. And then what we really try to do is give players a reason to pay attention when it's not their turn, so that they're actually trying to pay attention to what resources they have available, so that they can kind of know what's about to happen, and just try to keep everybody as engaged as possible.
Mm-hmm. So from the GM experience, what are the differences on the GM side of things? What am I going to be looking at as a GM that's going to be different?
Go ahead, Eric. There's a lot to say there.
Oh, there's a lot to say. So I think we have done a lot to streamline the GM experience, and we're one of the names we're kind of kicking around for replacing Game Master or Dungeon Master or Storyteller is World Shaper. It's kind of from our lore. It defines all the things we want to. It hits that like referee and storyteller vibe. Anyway, so our World Shapers should have a pretty good time putting together all those missions, scenarios, adventures for the players. The book is really targeted at them and making their lives simpler. So from the get-go, we have made an optional system called infiltration and are they getaway cards
Chase.
now, Richard? What's the chase cards? And essentially, as your characters approach the mission, you can have some kind of set activities they need to get through, and we've sent an example in to Mike, and he can show that off as needed. But that everyone in the party can pick the thing that they're maybe most talented at, or they might have the best time of succeeding at, and then use those methods to infiltrate on this mission, or to blow the hinges off the warehouse door and kick your way in, because that's what your character would be most welcome to do, and not making that impossible for the other people in the party who also want to, I want to stealth in. Okay, great. There's an option for you to do that too. Just covering the gambit of things there. In combat, in a scenario, I think we call them scenes. We have cards for every monster. We're not going to have a monster manual, or if we do, it'll be supplemented with actual physical tarot-sized cards with the art on one side and the rules on the other side. And Richard is kindly showing off in his background. I don't know which way to indicate, but that is an example of our Game Master screen. It'll have 4 hollow slots in it where you'll be able to stick your tarot cards in with the environment, the bad guys are fighting, the secrets that are happening, whatever's got to happen there, infiltration cards, chase, whatever's got to fit. We've got 4 slots in there, so you can show off to the players what they're up against, what their options are, and still have your rules facing you, and you don't have to like flip book pages and change things out and take a bunch of time doing reference. You've kind of got it all on the handful of things in front of you.
The old cover up the rules with your hand and show the picture of the thing in the book.
Yeah.
We thought.
I love that idea. I think it's very creative. I know from my standpoint, it definitely is the
make it obvious.
Yeah, it definitely is the book. Trying not to give off like, here's the super secret stuff about the monster, but here's what it looks like type thing. Yeah. I completely agree. Yeah, that's fantastic. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, in combat, we've got the monster cards. We have done a lot of work to streamline how vehicles work. If you're, the vehicle guy driving around, if you're the hacker, we've got a really unique, simplified mechanic that a lot of cyberpunk games or, sci-fi games suffer from with the hacker is the like, they're just gonna, take half an hour and no one's gonna do anything while this guy puzzles this out. So we've kind of got a built in to combat and built into the system, mini game for them to work on, that they have to be both active in that and participating in the combat, so that all of that flows and jives. And then when we get out of combat, we have a similar system, the infiltration cards, where we have the chase cards, and you're trying to earn chase points to escape the bank robbery, get out of the mansion where you just stole something, get away from the scene where you got ambushed or whatever. Lots of options there. Richard, is there anything I'm forgetting on other streamline things? Maybe AoEs and machine guns and stuff like that.
Yeah, we put a lot of work into the full auto system to make it both feel full auto and be the same 2 dice rolls that it would be if you were a normal character firing a normal weapon. So that one works pretty well. There's some rules there. It's probably longer than we need to go into right now. A couple of things on the chase cards and infiltration cards. They're also pretty good as just prompts, where you can just be like, oh, there's a fence in the way. The game master never has to show the card to the players at all. He can just say, what do you guys want to do about it? And they can have something to work off of for what they might make the different dice rolls for the things that the players actually come up with that isn't on the card.
There's difficulties.
But it can make it really easy for you to be like, all right, I know I want my players to deal with these 3 things before they actually get into the building. So I'm going to look through this deck. What here gives me good options for how I might deal with that? And then all of that prep work is done. They don't have to actually like write a bunch of notes, figure a bunch of things out. They just have good inspiration in front of them to play with. And then they can do the same thing on the chase side on at the end, where they're like, I know there's going to be 2 squads of cars waiting because things have been tipped off that there was going to be a job here. And then they can have all that stuff in front of them to where they're just picking that up, getting some ideas. And if they like to ad lib, that's generally how I do a lot of my game mastering. They'll just have good notes in front of them already.
Yeah, if you need to throw together a mission at the end of the night because your players decided to do not the thing you wanted to do, boom, grab some cards, throw them out, make up a new thing, pay them a couple grand and move on.
On the hacking system, those are also on cards. So like if someone's like, I want to hack that toaster to make it explode, the game master didn't have to have the toaster's hacking profile prepared. They can just kind of draw off the deck of cards and be like, all right, well, this will be a really easy hack, but I want to add these 2 things to it. And then it's just done. They didn't actually have to prepare every door, every toaster, anything else that they could have to think of for the hacking purposes.
So the cards
seem
like I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I said the cards seem like they're a pretty integral part of the game. Are there cards for the players as well that they're going to have?
We did spells on cards. An entire section of
companions.
Yeah, companions.
If you have an animal companion.
But like an entire section of spells, like in D&D, what might be like the entire school of transmutation, our spells, their words and descriptions are short enough to where on a double-sided tarot card, we were able to fit that entire section of spells.
Wow.
In large enough font. So like the spells do a lot of different interesting things, but they are not 4 paragraphs of words either. I think our longest one might be 3 sentences.
Brevity, I like it.
Yeah.
The last thing I'll put a note on, cards for players, is our boss board. We kind of have taken the approach with our bosses that we really wanted them to feel kind of video gamey. So they have different like areas you can attack. The players get one sheet that has kind of the bare bones, like, oh, these are all the threats from this area, and this is the special ability that this area gives, and here's an attack or the movement off this area. And the GM has kind of the hit point tracker, the ammo trackers, anything else that needs to get kind of written down and worked with. But then as the players have that in front of them so they know what they're attacking. They're not just like, I swing at the big pool of hit points dragon and I did 50 and cool, I guess that was something. No, it's like, yeah, I shot Bob in the multi-launcher and so it blew up and did damage to other stuff. Or I took out that Gatling gun and now I don't have to worry about taking those full auto attacks. Or we took out his legs, so now he's kind of grounded, so on and so forth. So that's another element where we're like, yes, we need to give the players something to work off of too.
Right, targets to basically mini achievements. So we mentioned, or you mentioned, Bob, your demo, which is available on your website right now, has a lot to do with Bob. Why don't you tell us more about that?
Yeah, Kill Bob is a adventure where you will deal with Atlas's former employee Bob, who's now a renegade AI, who you'll see in Eric's background there has built himself a nice big old body. And after playing with a couple of those infiltration cards, you'll get to encounter Bob and his AI cultists. We've run it, I don't know, somewhere between 7 and 10 times for different groups of people. No two times has it ever been done the same way that we've seen. Everyone will just go in like wildly different directions as while playing the same characters with the same abilities. So we've actually thought that was a really good sign that the direction we were going with the boss boards works really well.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of fun. I'm already thinking about downloading the demo so I can take a look at it myself. So from the standpoint of you have your online demo, but all this is leading up to a big event which is happening in February, which is your Kickstarter.
February 7th. We're really excited. It's going to have the GM screen is part of the initial box, so not actually a stretch goal. We're planning on 50 of those monsters being on cards in the box, whole bunch of dice, whole bunch of tokens, AoEs, rulers, pretty much everything we can think of, plus a hardcover book. And then the stretch goals could get really exciting. See if we get to do some of those fun things.
Yeah, and we're also offering some digital versions, and we might do some add-on things and some various other things, but primarily we're focusing on the big box set that would come with everything you need to get for your group and sit down and boom, you're playing Vault already. You've got it going. You're making dudes. It's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, as well as the demo being up on your site, you have character sheets for all 16, I think it's 16 classes or so you have all that stuff up there. So there are resources that are available for free right now on your website, including the demo. And February 7th, obviously the Kickstarter launches. I will have all the links down below for all of you to go over and click that little notify button, because that really does help. Because a lot of times I forget that I even was interested in something. Like it's 3 o'clock in the morning. I've had way too many beers, and I'm looking for Kickstarter, going, "Oh, I love this," and I can never remember what it is. And so that's the reason I always hit the notification button, because I'm a sloppy drunk.
Well, that's great.
And actually, I'm not drinking right now because I'm doing the dry January. So yay me! Yeah, I'm miserable. But, so the artwork is phenomenal. Is the art being done in-house?
We've commissioned several really excellent artists to come up with all of our wonderful cover and monster, well, not monster, but game art, or essential game art. And one of our stretch goals is getting more done by our sweet artists that we like to hire, because we'd rather give the money to them. So, more people who sign up, the more cool stuff we get to put in.
Support your local artist.
We really want our follow-on Kickstarter to be a miniatures line for our game. Yeah.
It's just too much to get in the first run. Yeah.
Well, this is what I'm hearing in my mind as you guys are describing what you're describing. I'm thinking this sounds like a mini tactical game in some way, shape, or form.
Oh yeah. I mean, it has a lot of those foundations in its mechanics.
Yeah, there's no grid unless you really want to play on one. It's all
you can use a grid, but
yeah.
So, because when you mentioned rulers and things like that, I immediately dropped onto Warhammer and said, okay, now I kind of get what you guys are going for. So, because the tokens are going to basically be the miniatures, I would assume.
So you'll have like a mage will generate like 5 magic points in a turn, and they'll spend those points to cast their spells, and then they get them again the next turn. But it's nice to have the chips in front of you to be like, all right, I'm going to spend 3 to cast this spell and 2 to cast this spell. And like our Titans, they gain rage points whenever they get hit or they miss, because they get angry. So, and then you'll want to keep those tokens in front of you, because you'll have different things you can spend those rage tokens on as like different abilities to do.
I see.
And then like the dodges, you'll have 3 dodges in a turn, so you'll keep those in front of you. So you're like, all right, I'm going to spend 1 to dodge and toss it into a bucket, and then you get them back when you take your next turns, so that you can keep track of everything as you're doing it.
Very tactile that way. Yeah.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, that's very good. Very good. So why don't you tell me about your combat system? I mean, I understand we kind of talked about it a little bit, but your injury and kind of rest and recuperation mechanics are pretty robust.
Yeah. It's a relatively low hit point system. If you're very high level and have 30 to 40 hit points, you are really tanky. Most like starting level characters might be in the 10 to 15-ish range. So once you get below 5, you're broken, and that's terrible. You don't want to be that. And then once you take more hit point damage than you have hit points, then you take an injury. And they start off pretty mild, broken leg, broken arm, those kinds of things. And then they start getting much, much worse. Actually just getting knocked out, suffering from shock, those kinds of things. And then if you've gotten lucky enough to just get really messed up, eventually just the grip of death starts to take you and you just die from the total number of injuries you've taken. And then downtime, you'll get to spend some time with surgery, maybe getting some of those things fixed up, going on a really nice vacation, going out on the town and partying, maybe gambling away your entire fortune or doubling it, who knows.
Or meeting the love of your life.
Yeah, yep, that's also an option. So there's all these different things that you get to do in between missions, and often what we've noticed when people are playing the game is they're actually really working to get a good mission, to get a good payday, to go spend that money on those downtime options. Like they might want a gear upgrade, but really what they're looking for is something cool that they can train for, or do some extra research on what might be a new free lead on an even better mission in the future. Those kinds of things.
That sounds cool. I like that. Now, when we talk about upgrades, because this is a cyberpunk system, are there cybernetics implants, things like that?
Yeah. Oh yeah. We have about 10 different ones right now, but that doesn't mean that will be all of them by the time we're said and done. Cyber arms, cyber eyes, all kinds of internal systems that you can go through. And our cyberware system is the counterbalance to the magic system, in that the more metal you stick in yourself, the less magic you can do. And there's even people who choose to forego both things and be natural and not do any magic or cyberware, and they get a little XP bump for doing that. But the cyberware system lets you basically increase a bunch of stats, do cool actions, have extra turns, those kinds of things as you work up and build up the amount of cyberware points your character can possess.
Aggressive Wi-Fi.
Hacking and drone controlling and all those fun things are also part of that.
Excellent. That sounds like a good time.
It works. We like it.
And then as you, go ahead.
Go ahead.
And as you're leveling up, you get various additional like special bonuses for like, okay, now my character's in the exemplar tier, so now we have new features and abilities that they can pick from and choose kind of these one-off super bonuses that characters can pick. And there's some really fun ones in cyberware, which is why I bring that up. Just a lot of like extra bits, or your current bits do like double what they should, or all kinds of things there.
Very good. So since you guys have been working on this for 3/10 years, what would you say is your favorite part of the game?
I think my favorite part is how slick and streamlined we've got in combat. Your turn is pretty quick. You've got your couple of actions. You know how to do it because you've been slowly building up all the abilities on this character, and know its kit inside and out. But also there's fun new toys to play around with. And that that you kind of have to be there and be engaged, because there's all kinds of interesting things you can do as, dodges or reactions or damage reductions, things that you have to kind of know what your resource pool is and be actively monitoring what other people are doing and how to help your friends, or how they're helping you, or what you've got left to spare in the tank, or that you have 10 injury counters and really need to not be in this fight anymore.
You're beyond broken.
Yeah.
I think it's boss boards. It's a real toss-up between character creation and boss boards, but I think boss boards really do create a very different battle than people expect, because the thing that you're fighting, each one of those panels that you're looking at, it's also taking an action. So in a lot of ways, it's almost like fighting another party, but also it's all condensed into this one very powerful enemy that you're fighting. And I think that does something on the action economy. It really kind of balances that out in a way that makes the fights feel a lot more dynamic and a lot more threatening to everyone at the same time. And I think I really love that we were able to capture that.
One of the things that I love that you were mentioning was having those cards at your fingertips just kind of sprinkle around and have those cards help inspire you as to what you're going to be doing next. And I think that's a fantastic way of going about it. It sounds like a lot of fun. So are you guys looking for anyone to demo your game?
We are. We would love to pick up a couple of playtest teams, give them all the credit that we can in the book, do that kind of deal. But send them out some content, get them to play with it, and then tell us what they think about it. And we would love it if they could start with the demo, just so we can get a sense of like which parts of the demo they were attracted to, so we can figure out what kind of content to give them. Sure. And just reach out to us at richard@teamrexgames.com, and we will be happy to start working with some people.
Excellent. I'll have that email address on the screen right about like I can't. It's somewhere. I always get confused, but it'll be there. So the Kickstarter comes out February 7th. This will be out before that, I swear. And if you have any additional questions, you can look down below. There's a whole bunch of links to their website, links to character sheets and the demo itself, if you guys want to try that out, and to the Kickstarter itself, if I didn't mention that already. And I can't wait to see what comes out, because I can only imagine what crazy stretch goals you guys are going to have. Don't tell me anything. I want to be surprised.
Thank you.
Heck yeah. Thank you so much, Mike, for having us on and letting us talk to your audience.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming on. I appreciate it. And let me know if you need anything else from me.